of our wealth creation program. Today is our third day, and I'm excited about what I want to teach you. Now, I'll be talking to you about the vehicles for wealth creation, and I believe that this is going to be very interesting. The first session we spoke on our wealth creation series, we spoke about wealth creation 101, the basics, the foundation. Where we said to build wealth, you need to work on the tools you already have: mind, relationships, and utilization of time. Positioning. We discussed how value is important, but positioning is even more important. Positioning is the key to the reward compared to your mechanics or machine that takes you for you. So we'll be discussing for you. So we'll be discussing different ways to produce your wealth. There's no point of waiting for wealth only when you are driven and equivalent. We're just talking about money. We're just talking about money or sustenance, something that sustains you, is the welfare vehicle. Now, the welfare vehicle is you crawling. At a particular stage of our lives, it is okay to be dependent on the government, on our parents, on beneficiaries, and gifts of people for our sustenance. But it is not a sustainable way. That is how the wealth vehicle of crawling will not take you very far. It's meant to last for a particular period, and it's totally fine if you are dependent on welfare. It is part of life that some stages you might need help, you might need support. But I want to tell you that to be short time, and it's okay sometimes to get help, to get support. But the second short time vehicle for wealth creation is a job. And I want to say a job is like using your legs to move from one destination to another. Way to long time wealth building. That's why it's the leg. So a job, in a sense, can provide for your short time needs, your monthly needs, but it should not be your long time strategy for wealth creation, because even though it is a vehicle, this can only be a short time vehicle. So ask yourself, do I can take you from one area to vehicle? But then the third vehicle will be the vehicle in our transportation world is a bicycle. Using a bicycle. Using a bicycle, you can go very far. It's better than using your leg, but still it is very slow. And the equivalent of using a bicycle for a wealth plan is a high value skill. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer. As a matter of fact, it is profitable. It can take you very far, but it requires a lot of your time, a lot of your energy. Imagine a doctor or a surgeon, spending close to 18 hours. But as a matter of fact, you can be very rich using a bicycle, but it's still a short-term plan. Most short-term plans are either non-effective because it is not sustainable in the long run, or it takes too much energy. And if there's any takeaway I want you to take from our session on positioning, is that your reward does not have to be proportionate to your effort. A bicycle can even take you from one city to another city, but it's usually more longer than using your leg. It's usually easier than using your. There are other better transportation systems. Now, if a car, job, if you are in this, I don't want you to feel. If you are in this, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable that, oh, I'm using short-term uncomfortable that, oh, I'm using short-term vehicles. Like I said, usually it's a step. You have a high value skill. The idea is that you want to be progressing from one step to another. You can have a job but not a high value skill to another. You can have a job but not a high value skill. You can just have something that sustains you, employed through a higher value skill. But the problem with high value skills are, even though they pay, much, is dependent on you. Pay much is dependent on you. If you're not around, you don't make money. You can have a designing job, but it always requires your time and your energy. It is good. It is a process of building wealth, but you have to think long term. When we think of building wealth, but you have to think long term. When we think of long-term vehicles, first of all, we have owning a business system. Now, this is a different ballgame. In owning a business system, it is like using a motorbike. It's better than a bicycle because you don't use the same effort. In fact, with a motorbike, you can go very far. farther than a bicycle will take you, farther than your leg will take you. And this is what a business system is. But system which is equivalent, long-term vehicle. Think of starting a business, packaging your high skill into a business system where it can function without you. You might need others' active participation, but it requires less of your attention. This is you're thinking of long-term systems. Whatever you're doing, think of building a business behind it. What is a business? A business is an enterprise or discuss risks, because one of the major factors that separates short-term vehicles from long-term vehicles is their willingness to take risks. And one of the first risks that will move you from short-term vehicle to long-term vehicle is building a business. Look at even the vehicles I talk about: crawling, walking, and bicycle. It takes more risks to drive a motorbike than a bicycle. So usually it's just taking more risks. But apart from a motor vehicle, one of the other long-term plans for wealth creation is to think investment. Investments requires less demand on our activity and energy than business. And investment is the equivalent of a car. There are many people that have jobs, but they broke into wealth because a long-term vehicle of investment. Investment is like a car. It makes you a little more comfortable. In fact, you just leverage time that goes back, you leverage opportunities. And it's very difficult sometimes to even enjoy long-term vehicles if you do not have sufficient experience in you need to build long-term vehicles like a business, or even understanding the nature of investments. You can start investing in stocks, in real estate, in small businesses. Remember that the higher you go, or the better wealth vehicle you want to adopt, the bigger the risks. So one of the major, what is the equivalent wealth, high net worth, high value vehicles? For reference our last session, it is accessing capital, accessing contracts through relationships. These are things that you do not even need a system. Simple positioning can amplify your long-term wealth to give you more reward than you've worked for. One of the reasons that people stay impoverished and poor is because most of the times they think that even though hard work is good, they think hard work produces most of the results. But that's not true. Most of the richest people understand that it doesn't take so much work to make money. It might require so much work from other people, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it yourself. I'm not against hard work. But for instance, now, relationships that brings contracts. I'm into consulting, and I see a lot of contracts that come. So my clients, the only reason why they get contracts is because they understand how to navigate the power world. They understand how to lobby, how to cash in on their relationships. I've always said this: you can always hire experience, you can always hire expertise. There are people that are more competent than, but they can hire me because they have the resources. So in your journey of wealth creation, these are the vehicles. Ask yourself right now, what vehicle am I using? If you don't have a job and you don't have an investment, if you don't have any way that you earn money, just know that you're in the welfare stage and you're crawling. It is fine, but ask yourself, how can I move to something more sustainable in the long run? You can think of a job, you can think of building a high value skill. That will give you the leverage of the equivalent of working on your foot. I don't know why. In fact, you don't even have to understand what I'm saying. One of the ways you can easily remember is look at the metaphorical vehicles I'm talking about. Short time, if you want to do a short time movement, you consider walking or maybe a bicycle. But anything you want to do long time, you have to consider um, automated technology, which requires something like a motorbike, a car, or an airplane. You can totally decide. But I know that some of the questions that people ask is, can I jump into long-term vehicles directly? Of course you can. You don't have to have a high value skill before you start a business. A business can just begin with an idea. That is why it is, uh, for most people, starting a business is what they risk, because if it works, usually you are set for life. Now is their willingness to take risk. Unless you are willing to step out into the unknown, take chances, chances are you'll always be stuck in your short-term vehicles. You won't ever leave your job. You won't ever leave your self-employment. and build a system that can function without you if you're not comfortable with risks. If you look at some of the richest people in the world, especially if you try, the more you succeed. I'm into private equity, and I know that it is a tried law in the private equity scene that sometimes out of 10 investments, and one is their profit. This is the mentality of a risk taker, that I might try even if I fail. The one time that it works is going to compensate all of my years of labor. 50 years of labor can't give them. So you want to jump out there and say, okay, realistically, if I'm using my leg, will I go very far in life? You have to be realistic. For most people, if I say move from one city to another city using your leg, it's not realistic because they say either I'll get too tired or the dangers of the way are too much. Or I say use a bicycle. You might be willing, but it takes too long. Then ask yourself, if I have an aspiration, because the first session I talked about goal setting. If you want to be a millionaire, well, your net worth maybe at 30, at 40, you want to have 1 million uh, US dollars or 5 million US dollars, or even a billionaire, you have to be realistic. What vehicle will take me there? If I have a target that I want to be a billionaire, let's say in the next 5 or 10 years, what are my options? I would consider vehicles like starting a business or going into investment. There are teenagers that are billionaires. Why? Because they took the right vehicle. It does not matter your expertise, it does not matter your intention. If you use the wrong vehicle, you can't arrive your destination. No, if you are thinking you can't be a billionaire in 5 or 10 years using the job vehicle, it's not possible. You have to use the right vehicle to get your destination. So as we crown this entire series together, I want you to sit down and ask yourself, what is my financial target for this year? What's my financial target for 5 years? What's my financial target for 10 years? And ask yourself, what vehicle will take me there? And be realistic. Those of you that have high ambitions, chances are you will not get there this year. But if you have a 5-year plan, you can always arrive at that destination. That's okay. This is where I want to be in 5 years. Then truly consider, if you have a job now, how do I transition from this? If you have a high paying job and you want to stay, most jobs can only sustain for the next 5 years or 10 years. What happens in the next 40 years? Would job be a viable wealth vehicle? So even with your job, you can still continue your job in the next 40 years, but you have to be more intentional about investments. You can have both a short-term vehicle and a long-term vehicle and find out how to balance each of them. If you have a high value skill and you're making money, instead of you to be comfortable, think of a long-term vehicle. Think of investments. Think of investing in that person's business or converting your high value skill into a business. This is how it works. I'm not saying abandon your short-term vehicles. As a matter of fact, most of the most successful entrepreneurs, while building their business, they kept their day job. This is the balance. Don't just stay stuck on short-term vehicles or long-term vehicles. And I want to even give a caveat. Sometimes you might be too obsessed with long-term vehicles, starting a business and investment, and get lost that you need your daily needs to be met. You have a system where maybe welfare can take care of you, or a job can take care of you, or your value of your skill. This is what bootstrapping is. You're starting a company, but you're consulting, you're offering related services so that you can continue building your business. Whatever you have the same destination as you, that is making it a little bit more than you are in the short term. As a matter of fact and wisdom, having a long-term plan, it will even direct your short-term actions. You can get a job, not necessarily because you want to make money, but because you want to learn something that will help you in building your business or in investment. This is the strategic action you need to build. I've always said this: millionaires plan, billionaires strategize. The bigger the wealth, the more this action will lead to the next action. So, dear friends, what vehicle are you using? Don't remain stuck in the short-term vehicles. And even if you're pursuing long-term vehicle, be wise and say, what are my options for short-term sustenance? For everyone that has joined us in this series, I really hope that you got value. If you've not followed our previous session, especially on positioning, please do that. We get a lot of value in it. And in case you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We'll be releasing videos apart from our live sessions. we're releasing a lot of content and value opportunities to and investment. I'm inviting you to join our Institute of Finance and Manax Institute of Finance and Industry, where we're going to give you Masters of Industry. It's a 3-month program that will prepare you in building business and investment. It will help you think like a leader. It will help you understand the tools that are available to you. What differentiates one vehicle from another is that their willingness to use more tools. A leg is one tool, but there are other superior tools type cause you succeed. So we're going to just highlight what is important in you succeed. So we're going to just highlight what is important in your wealth creation game, and then it's going to be more affordable than anything that exists. And this is not elitist. You don't need a degree. You can even, as long as you can read and write and you're willing to learn, this program is for you. If you'd like to know more about this program, in the comment section, type MIFI, MIFE. I will send you more information. Our first session begins in April 2026. We might have a second cohort by destination. Wherever you're going, it's just time. I know you're going to get there. Thank you and take care. I know you're going to get there. Thank you and take care.